Welcome in, Deuce and Mo. It's an NBA night chat just 2 days before the NBA draft. Oh, I cannot wait. We've got rumors. We've got draft buzz.
We have trades that we didn't even talk about.
That's a good point. I forgot. We have not been on since the Bradley Beal trade. The last thing we did was when there was that one moment that Shams put out that the Kings and Wizards talked about Beal for a second.
And then we made sure to talk about how cool is it that for a guy with a no trade clause on his contract was even willing to hear what Sacramento had to say.
But then we went, that's nice he wanted to hear, but it's cool that he wanted to go somewhere else.
So great. We're so happy for him. So happy.
Appreciate you guys hanging out with us live on YouTube. Of course, the audio people, appreciate you guys so much. We want to remind everyone, coming up on draft night, Thursday night, we'll be live during the NBA draft, probably a little bit before, and we're super excited because we're going to be joined by the Kings Herald's draft analyst, Brian West.
Hell yeah.
And the 17-year-old future NBA general manager who knows more about basketball than a lot of people who has been locked into the NBA draft. Pernille will be live with us, breaking down the draft. Oh, and who could forget Morgan Reagan?
What?
The return of Adam Wojnarowski, Woj's brother, scheduled to appear.
Just over Zoom, right?
Let's just say he's on his way. He's on his way.
Scheduled to appear. I like that. You never know with Wojnarowski's, huh?
But it's going to be a lot of fun. We're just going to be on throughout the draft. And the Kings have the number 24 pick. I just feel like as we get closer and closer to the draft, we're getting a lot of noise, a lot of smoke in the air from Zion Williamson to Dame. What the hell's going on in Portland and what happened with Bradley Beal just a couple of days ago? How are you feeling about the Bradley Beal trade to the Suns now that you've had some time to digest it?
I got to process it because
Did you digest it like...
Ooh. I love food.
Yeah. Like, did you digest it like something good, right? Like black beans, that's very digestible, like good fiber. Or is it like, hey, I went out and
I had black beans from Taco Bell.
I had a street taco at 2:30 in the morning.
Ooh.
How did it feel? Did it like kind of burn going down? Like, okay.
No, I would say an in between. They're definitely processed beans, but they were still. Beans. Seriously, because when I was processing the whole situation, the first thing that has to come to mind has to be his contract, right? I mean, for so many people, even that was what we were talking about before the trade even happened with his interest in different organizations around the league. It was like, well, who wants this contract? And I don't even think we gave enough love to the no trade clause, right? Because obviously he had to waive it, but it carries with him now to the Suns. So I think about that for any team he was going to go to, but let's just start with him being traded to the Suns. And with that contract and that no trade clause, I'm just like, you guys are stuck. You're stuck. And then on top of that, what's the thing called with the CBA? The
second apron? Yeah.
The second apron. And now that's not going to kick in, obviously, like right away, where it's going to damage the bank account of Matt Ishbia.
I don't think anything damages the bank account of Matt Ishbia. I just think this new CBA, it's going to punish teams who are spending that much money in such a crippling fashion that it a lot of times doesn't make sense. But I think from the Suns, they just went, look, we already went all in on KD. We gave up all those picks. Let's just keep going all in.
And here's the other thing. They didn't have to give up a lot of stuff, right? They gave up Chris Paul, who obviously it seemed like they were down to part ways with anyway. So it was going to be difficult trying to find a new home for him. So they got rid of Chris Paul, Landry Shamet, and some second rounders, pretty much. I mean, that's pretty much what it was. And when you look at that deal too, I'm sure there's people around the league going, wait, that's all you had to give up for Bradley Beal? Like anyone could have done that? No, I think it was also Bradley Beal saying yes to that trade, obviously, that helped persuade everything to go down. His wife is from the West Coast. Like,
let's also not lose sight that Bradley Beal's agent, Mark Bartelstein, his son is also the CEO of the Phoenix Suns. Like, there's a lot going on there.
There's a lot.
I mean, look, I think it's interesting how we talk about Bradley Beal because he's a really good player. And
we'll get to that.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I mean, we'll get to, I want to talk about him on the floor because this is the beans processed at different levels in my body. So I was processing the contract first. And then when I process what he can do on the basketball floor, I think some people go the negative direction and go like, he's not that averaging 30 points a night, Bradley Beal. He's not going to be able to do that with this team. There's 3 high usage guys on the squad. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? You guys, situation. I mean, sometimes a new atmosphere, a situation changes and you're playing with some of the best players in the league and it can just bring out the best in you as well.
I'm just not high on this. Like, no denying when you say Booker, Beal, and Durant, I'm like, hey, there's a lot of talent out there. A lot of guys who can create a shot and get a bucket, make something happen. I don't trust it. Like, Beal has not been healthy, and he's 30 now. Okay. Kevin Durant. I love KD. I think he's one of the greats to ever play the game. I just feel like it's starting to slip a little bit for him. And so I'm going, okay, if you're counting on KD, who has been nicked up in recent years, you're counting on Beal, who's been banged up, and then what else is around him? We don't even know what's happening with DeAndre Ayton, how you fill out the rest of the roster.
Depth, yes.
There's always guys willing to take deals, and maybe you can do something to get some undrafted guys. But you're trying to win a championship here, too. You know, and I think, one, I'm going to make something clear. They're not winning a championship. Like, let's not get fooled by this. There's no, like, so-called super team with, like, big threes that get put together and they just are automatically just awesome. They get close, and the Suns are going to be competitive at times with those 3 guys this year. But I don't look at them as a championship team because they don't have anything around them.
You don't have to look at it as a championship team right now, but you say that, it's like,
it's not going to be the year after that when KD.
But why can't they do something with DeAndre Ayton? Why can't they try and get some pieces or something out of him and then like build something with more depth?
You trade DeAndre Ayton for what? I mean, you get a couple of players back to help the depth, and maybe you have to do that. Okay, who's the big? You know, I mean, I know there was a Suns website today talking about, maybe Orlando with Wendell Carter. Okay. That's a little more intriguing, but like, I just look at it, and I'm not saying it's all about depth, but when you have guys who definitely miss games, Durant getting older, I need to know what else is around them. One, the other thing is just a cohesiveness. I just think it takes time for that stuff to come together and just work. And you can go ahead and drop what about when Durant went to the Golden State Warriors? They had already won a championship. They were already a championship team that had it figured out, and adding him to the mix just elevated them. Where this, to me, I feel like you've got a new coach in there. You got to kind of make all of that work between those 3 and then figure out what on earth is around those
right,
guys.
because Frank Vogel has to figure out what his system's going to be with these 3 guys. Like, there has to be strategy. There has to be some structure to it, because we've seen the whole Kevin Durant add 2 guys around him. Oh, let's watch some really fun basketball. Doesn't translate into huge winning seasons, right? I mean, maybe a postseason run, but that's not the goal when you're putting lots and lots of money, making big trades and losing a lot of your depth to try and make it to the next level. So I guess for me, I just don't want to. I don't want to like knock it until I see it. And I'm only saying that because I want to see because Isaiah Thomas, you know, who is now like leading the charge, it seems like, as Chris Paul was saying in his piece in some interview, that he was saying that Isaiah Thomas had a lot to do with you know, him being on his way, being in that trade. But let's just say that this team does make other moves, adds, I don't know what that depth is, but add some things around this big three, if you want to call it that. And with Frank Vogel, who we've seen coach stars before, it works. It comes together. The only other thing that you need to happen is for everyone to stay healthy. And that's what I don't count on. Yeah. Exactly. I know. But like we say, I mean, we're going to go around the league in a little bit, and like we're going to talk about Dame and Zion, and like everyone has their health. Actually, you had a whole list of guys when we were, and I know we'll talk about for the Kings and who they should be looking at. I just went and looked at, first and foremost, how many games they played last season. You know, that was like, for me, I think being available, and we saw that with the Sacramento Kings and what they were able to do with healthy guys. Postseason run. I
think going back to Suns for a second with 8-2, I am curious, just with what you said about Vogel, can he get something out of 8? And that Monty Williams in 8, just they didn't vibe. Like, it's clear. There was a piece that came out, I think the other day, where it said Monty Williams wasn't a fan of coaching Jay Crowder or DeAndre Ayton. You know, I mean, we saw it too with our own eyes. It was clear there was something going on between those guys. And you never know. I mean, DeAndre Ayton's talented. There's obviously something there. If you can figure out and salvage it, that would be great. But if not, yeah, you can't really mess around. I just look back, and I know hindsight's 20/20, but I just think about how the Suns have built this thing out. Like, would they have just been better off keeping Bridges, keeping Cam Johnson, and those picks? And
the answer is yeah.
Instead, they're mortgaging their future entirely on this extremely flawed group, in my opinion. Those three are going to be able to play together. They're going to have moments. Beal's going to have big games. Booker's going to. KD, all that stuff. And there are going to be moments throughout the season you go, oh, maybe they can make it work. I would not bet on that.
What type of teams were just in the NBA Finals? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's exactly. Like if the Suns had kind of kept that team together. Yeah. I don't know. Are they? What would they have been able to do the rest of this year? And you could have still dealt with the CP3 thing and be like, okay, maybe we decide to go in a different direction. Sure. It's just interesting that this is the bet they made, and now we'll see if it works for them.
New owner syndrome. Got to make those moves. We saw the same thing happen with the Minnesota Timberwolves, the big Rudy Gobert trade, and how that went down.
That's almost. Yeah, that's far more disgusting, in my opinion, the Gobert trade than getting Durant and Beal, because at least those guys are like they have been dudes in this league. Hey, let's get to some people watching us live. Morgan Reagan.
What's up,
Appreciate
everybody?
You guys hanging out with us on an NBA Night Chat. Make sure to hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribed. Also, major shout out to you guys who subscribed, because we have surpassed 12,000 subs.
Oh, my God.
That was last week. That was big. That
was so big. Thank you, guys. That's huge. We've been trying to do that for a little bit, so appreciate the support.
Leandro says, yep, the Suns should have kept both wings. Bridges is elite. Yeah, Bridges showed off what he could do with the Nets last year. He looked like a really, really talented player, and he's still young.
Yep.
Someone in the chat, I can't find it now. Oh, Chris said, Durant literally played for the Seattle Supersonics. His days are seriously numbered. Yeah. He played for a team that hasn't existed since 2007.
And dealt with a serious injury.
Yes.
I mean, you know what I mean? It's like you got to factor in everything. And he's still, because of his unique body, is still going to make a huge impact in this league for a little bit. He really is at a very high level, but I get it when you can't just rely and depend on him on a team anymore.
The other thing that came out of the Beal story was in The Athletic, I believe it was David Aldridge was reporting that the Kings did make inquiries about Bradley Beal, but were unwilling to include Keegan Murray, their first-round pick from last year, whom the Wizards had tried to move up to get in 2022. So that's not exactly a surprise.
No, I think it's funny when you just see situations like that, scenarios like that, and you go, Landry Shamet and Chris Paul. Yeah. Like that's all, in a couple of second rounders, whatever. But yeah, no, it's great that the conversation was happening at all, but also I'm so glad that they weren't willing to part ways with Keegan Murray.
Also, on the Beal front,
what?
This no trade clause. One, it was laughable at the time.
So juicy.
It's more laughable now. You do not give Bradley Beal a no trade clause. In fact, I would make the case that no NBA team should be giving no trade clauses. It just puts you in such a... Is that going to be a deal breaker in a trade?
Right.
Or in a signing?
Right.
Is that in a deal? You're trying to negotiate a deal and that's a deal breaker? I'd be like, yeah, there have been one other guy in the league who's had no trade clause. Sorry. Or I would do this. Hey, you get a no trade clause for the first 2 years of the deal. Like, to do a full deal and say no trade clause... that is awful.
And honestly, what you just said right there, like let's even say the first 3 years of the deal, whatever. It's like that gives that player the security of knowing, okay, like this is going to be my home I get to choose this being my home for 3 years. The no trade clause, like you're saying, for an entire contract where you're getting paid $50 million plus a year, it's just
also in a situation where the money is guaranteed. Right? Like, so even if you're traded, that you still get the money.
Right.
And I know I'm not saying it's easy to be traded as an NBA player, uprooting your family, all that stuff. But like, come on. You cannot be giving Bradley Beal that deal. And now this new front office that's taken over is kind of dealing with the aftermath.
Yes. And that's it. That's what's wild about it. And I think that's why that's why a team like the Heat, for example, I'm sure we're like, yeah, no, we're not dealing with the no trade clause. You know, you saw the rumblings of the Heat and Bradley Beal's name. But yeah, I think with the Suns, it's a new owner being like, whatever, we want him until he's 34 years old, I think is when the contract will be up. And that's fine too, by the way, because there's a lot of older guys in this league right now that are making even more money that are even going to be older than 34 years old. So it's some of these contracts are wild. And I feel like for the Suns, they've screwed themselves over for a little bit now. But for the Wizards, good for them. You got rid of Bradley Beal and the no trade clause.
Okay.
And now here's where they're going to go.
They did what they had to do. Yeah.
Break it all down. Time to break it all down. Kuz just opted out of his player option. Where's KP? Like, what's up with him?
Yeah, there's talk about what the hell he's going to do if he's going to opt into that last year of his deal, which I believe pays him like $36 million, or go test the waters in free agency, which, you know, on one hand you go, okay, yeah, he should go do that. Yeah, I mean, if he can get one more payday, if that's what it's about for him, sure. But it's not like there's a ton of teams with cap space, right? And the teams that do have them aren't exactly great teams. And then you go into the next point is, does he believe his market's that great? Like, are teams lining up to give Porzingis a 4-year, $100 million deal just based on his injury history? And he's been good. Like, I have thought about him with the Kings.
I know,
you know,
you've said
I just go, oh, man. I mean, could he stretch 4? I mean, he at the 5 too. Obviously, that's ideal, but
65 games played last year,
which is great.
Yeah,
but you know, you can't ignore the past either. At least it was trending in a better direction for him, and he was productive. It's not only the games played. I mean, he averaged 20 points a game?
23
points a game. He shot 49% from the field, just under 39% from 3.
Yeah.
He's not that same guy, you know, obviously that was with the Knicks, but he can.
He's 27 and maybe he's finding his groove again too.
Yeah. I mean, post injury and not playing with Luka,
right,
which I think was a challenge for him.
Right. I absolutely agree. So, okay. Don't know what he's going to do, whatever. I think even if you're Washington, let's say that he opts into that.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's still difficult to try and find a trade for him because of it's a $30 million contract.
It's an expiring deal, but yeah.
It's expiring, but still, like,
you can move him by the deadline.
If you wanted to, and you wanted to go in that direction and try and get some, like, young pieces or something else for him, you break everything down if you're Washington and you try to trade away Chris Paul and then you just rebuild from there.
Yeah.
I really feel like
you make it sound so like great, I'm gonna rebuild from there. No,
and that's all you do.
It sucks. Yeah.
That's all you do.
Yeah, as a fan, that sucks.
You know, it really does. It does, but there also can be, I don't know. There's something.
There's a level of excitement about, new young people. It is funny though that had they done this maybe last year, they would have been in this draft where they could have had a chance at Victor, and you know.
Yep. It's true.
You'd be in that draft. And I mean, the way Victor is being talked about pre-draft is unlike anything we have ever seen.
When you think it's time, do the right thing, right? I think even what were you gonna say?
Nothing.
I was gonna say with like just going on to a little bit with Dame Lillard and everything going on there. And sometimes I feel like it's time to part ways. Yeah. But just going back to Bradley Beal is my point. Is like, if you felt like this wasn't going to be the direction you really wanted to go with in the future.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the biggest difference, right, is that they have a new front office in there, right?
Right.
So, but yeah, from your owner's perspective, if your GM was on the hot seat that bad, I don't know. But it seemed like the owner has a deep connection with Bradley Beal, and I think that he was giving him that deal. It wasn't really up to the GM at the time. So it's probably new front office comes in there and goes, yeah, we're done with that. The next thing is like with Kuzma. That's a name that I know a lot of Kings fans are interested in, is Kyle Kuzma.
And they've been interested in him.
Yeah. He opted out today of a deal that would have paid him $13 million in the final year next year, which makes sense for him. I mean, I think he'd be a really good fit with the Kings, right? He's still in his prime. I think he would be more efficient in Sacramento, especially with all the spacing. And if you think about him as like a Barnes replacement, and HB's getting some attention throughout the league, which is not surprising. But if you decide, yeah, you know what, we'll go a little younger. We'll go with the guy who's got more size, who could play make a little bit. His defense has its moments up and down, right?
His defense has his moments. His 3-point, he's like a 33% 3-point shooter. But he was averaging 21 points a game last year in 7 boards, right? So like he crashes the boards, he can score.
And I think that 3-point number is going to go up. He'll just have better spacing and he'll be on a better team, right? And get out and transition and go. I'm not saying I'm in love with Kyle Kuzma, but I think it's gettable, and I think it can make you better.
Gettable, yes. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think I hesitate because now my standards are a little bit higher when it comes to expectations. And I'm like, what does Kuzma do for you to help take you to the next level? I know we've also mentioned in the past.
You just talked about an athletic body and go give me a rebound who can get a bucket that has averaged 20 a game in this league.
In, like we said, gettable, because someone just put in the chat OG Anunoby, and it's like when you think of Kyle Kuzma too and what you'd have to pay him. I don't know. There's things about Kyle Kuzma that still bother me, and maybe it's even like his little Hollywood side too.
You little Hollywood. I mean, look, I'm in Sacramento. I'm a little Hollywood, right?
No, you're not.
Like, I guess
your clothing is nothing like what he would do. Like, you don't even know anything about fashion.
Like Kuzma maybe wears something like this.
Show everyone your shirt. Like, what a nerd. The bleeping jets. Oh, he turned the bleeping jets on. What a nerd with your.
Yeah. So Morgan
just like Kyle Kuzma.
Morgan thinks Kyle Kuzma is too Hollywood. As far as money goes for Kuzma, I don't know, because again, there's not a lot of money to spend out there. Unless does he want to go join the Houston Rockets?
Right.
They can pay him a shit ton of money. I mean, the Pacers have some money. That's an interesting team that you go, all right. I mean,
yeah,
Tyrese Halliburton with Kuzma, that's kind of fun. Benedict Mathurin, okay, but I think Sacramento, it's like, what is he going to cost? Is it 4-year, $100 million, $25 million a year? He opted out 13. I feel like he is in that neighborhood of around 22 to 25 million that someone
totally
would
fair.
Try to land him. And I think that's okay. Like, that's not a terrible deal.
In today's NBA, and
right.
that's, I think a lot of people, including myself, like I've done that, I'll be like, that's so much money. And it's just like, that's what that position's getting paid, and that's what that market is having to pay for certain guys. And I think for Kyle Kuzma, yeah, it's an absolutely fair price. We mentioned the good things that he can add. His defense, would there be times that it benefits in that team defense that the Kings provide? I don't know.
I don't think he's a bad defender. I just think he makes mistakes sometimes. Like, I don't know. Yeah, but I don't always think it's an effort thing with him.
Okay. You really just think it's like a feel for the game?
Like, let him get around and a guy who knows how to coach defense and Mike Brown, right?
I like that.
I just think, again, we get to this point with players where it's like, well, we want this player to solve all of the weaknesses.
I know.
Yeah, but he solves some, right? It's not going to be perfect. Who is the NBA free agent that they can go out there that would fix all their defensive issues? Jerami Grant is the one we've talked about. Like, if he ends up, like, I like Jerami Grant a lot. He is, 29 now? So he does a lot of things I liked just from a defensive standpoint. I think there's sometimes offensively he's frustrating because, I feel like I expect a little more after what we saw from him in Detroit, where there are times you're like, wait, where is Jerami tonight? And he had stretches throughout the early part of the season when you went, is he an all-star? He's playing awesome. He's playing good defense. He's scoring.
Jumper.
Yeah. I don't see that part enough, but he's a guy that's, again, another $25 million guy.
He's
25,
easily, yes.
Yeah, and
yes.
so
his defense alone, because he can play on both sides of the ball and can make an impact on a lot of teams. Now, I think too, he would play better in a system where he doesn't even have to be the 1 or the 2 guy, right? And that's why Sacramento would be so perfect for someone like Jerami Grant. Yeah, I would obviously like that. His defense alone. Special, long. And we always talk about how the Kings had their problems playing against length.
Last year in Portland, he played 63 games. He averaged 20 points a game. He did that for the first time in his career, shooting 47% from the field. He shot 40% from 3 last year on 5.7 attempts per game. He also got to the free throw line 5.4 times a game, shot at an 81% clip. The rebounding is not always a number that jumps out to you at 4.5 a game. But having a guy that you could throw at a couple of positions who has some playoff experience, who has some athleticism and scoring ability, I really like Jerami Grant. It is tougher now. You go, God, does it make 29 years old? When's his birthday? Let's see.
Well, he's 28 right now.
He's 29. Oh, he turned 29 in March. Okay. I hate how we talk about some of this stuff sometimes in the league too, because I'm like, he's 29 as if like he is an ancient person and that he's done now. I just, does the athleticism start to tail off again here in the next couple of years for him? And if you're going to give him like a 4-year deal and pay him you'd have to pay him a lot of money.
That's what happens with a lot of guys in this league, right? It's like you're at 29 giving them a lot of money, 3-year, 4-year contract where they're going to be 32 in their 30s. And sometimes what we're noticing with some of these players is that their prime, or just really the situation that they are in when it comes to an organization, is what elevates their game, even if they're 31 years old and they have the best, year of their life. So I think when I still see someone in their 20s, just turned 29.
Especially in today's game, too.
Yeah.
Where if you're relatively healthy, people take care of their bodies, Someone in the chat was asking if Jerami Grant and Sabonis played with each other in OKC and I wanted to double check. Yeah, they did play a season together in OKC. How funny.
Great. There's that connection.
Think about how far those two have come since their OKC days. Honestly, wow. Pretty tremendous.
Yeah.
The other guy I know we talked about last week is OG Anunoby, because Damian Barling had reported that the Kings are super intrigued by him and are aggressively pursuing him, and it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That to me, that is
yes.
I just don't think it's attainable.
And that's fine. No, you're not wrong when you say that, but I think when we talk about like what we want and the Kings needs, it's like it's OG, but you're exactly right.
If you're Masai, who is seemingly like a difficult person to deal with as a general manager, right? It's just hard to make a deal because he's just really good at his job. He's put together some pretty amazing deals throughout his reign as an NBA executive. If you're Masai, you're honestly going, give me Keegan Murray. Oh, You're not? Like, I don't think he's intrigued by hey, give me Kevin Huerter and picks, or Davion Mitchell and Rashawn Holmes and picks. That's where it's tough. I just don't necessarily think the Kings have the package to get it done unless they're willing to part ways with Keegan. I would not part ways with Keegan.
I'm with you. OG, 25 years old.
I like him.
I like him a lot. Last season, he played in 67 games. You know, I know health has also been something that has been connected to him in his career. I think a lot of people are attracted to what he's capable of doing on the floor, plus his length, being a 6'7" guy.
7'2" wingspan.
Can do it on both ends of the floor.
Oh.
I mean, how could you not want this guy? And this guy should cost a lot, but his health is the only thing that I would say that gives him that little knockdown.
He made the all-defensive second team last year, makes $18.6 million this year, and has a player option for $19.9 million. I know there's been a lot of talk, too, that his agent, Rich Paul, Clutch Sports, that's the same agent as De'Aaron Fox, and that he would love to see OG play in Sacramento.
Yeah.
And that, you know, if you're Rich Paul, and if this is where it gets all complicated, because all these trades, we always think it's just a GM to GM. And it's like, not in today's league, especially an agent as powerful as Rich Paul. Like, they're involved in this stuff. And if there's talks about him getting traded to a certain team that is super interested, and Rich Paul hops on the phone with the Indiana Pacers, or name the other random team that would want him.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, you can do that, but we're not going to sign an extension with you.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be hard to be giving up multiple picks and maybe a young talent to get that done. But if he wants to play in Sacramento, that's another crazy aspect. We talked about Bradley Beal, like, would waive his no trade clause to have come to Sacramento.
Yes.
Just crazy. A young player like OG going, yeah, I want to go there.
Dude, that's what on a lot of podcasts I've been listening to lately, in the last couple of days, a lot of people were saying, and how crazy is it that Sacramento is being looked at the way that Sacramento is being looked at? And it's like, yeah, it's not crazy. One, we have our biases. We live here and we love the shit out of this place. But two, you finally have what real hoopers want in their career, and they want to play winning basketball. And Mike Brown showed in one season what winning basketball could look like. And then on top of that, you heard all the guys at the end of the season talking about this team and Mike Brown, and how he only elevated their games even if times were tough and they weren't playing and they were just a role player. Like, you want to play that type of basketball if you're someone who really wants to enjoy hooping in your career.
Are you surprised the Kings would not want to give up Keegan Murray in a deal for OG?
No, I'm not surprised that. And I mean, were you?
No. I mean, I just also have this thing in the back of my head when you hear, oh, they're not trading Keegan. I would have never thought they would have traded Tyrese Halliburton.
Facts.
And I think just in this league, in sports, in this business, you never say never on things.
Yeah. Unless even no trade clause.
I think the reality is they would love, and they believe in Keegan, want Keegan here for a long time. So I don't think they want to move him at all. I think if they're making a deal, it's because we want him to be a huge part of it, and we want to add to this because we think we can be a really good team in the West very soon.
I think this organization understands the importance of team building, and team building isn't just like what you think of when people go, yeah, let's do like team building activities and like build that chemistry. It's like, no. When these guys actually develop together with a certain style of basketball, it's just going to get better each year, right? It's just like anything in life. When you just keep practicing and you learn more and more. And if you learn with this style of basketball under Mike Brown consistently over the years with some of the same guys, yeah, of course. That is the winning way. Look at the Nuggets. I'm
excited to see Keegan in year 2.
Hell
really excited. Yeah, I think they just want to add to that. I think trading him would be like, okay, so like if you ended up trading Keegan and you lost Barnes and then you add like, are you better?
Right.
I don't
Because
think
you
that's
got
the case.
because
Yeah,
you got OG.
I want OG with Keegan
Right.
and with Fox,
Yeah.
right, and with Sabonis, obviously. Yeah, it's I just have a really tough time seeing a way for them to get that deal done.
Yep.
Unless I'm totally missing something.
I don't think you're missing anything.
Especially if OG's available. And I'm sure Sacramento's not the only team he'd be cool with going to and signing an extension with, right? It's not like he's going, hey, Masai, the only place I'm signing an extension is Sacramento. Like if Golden State could find a way to do it, he'd probably go play with the Warriors, right? There are different situations he'd be cool with.
And the only reason why that Masai would do something where it didn't, let's say like if it did happen and didn't involve Keegan or something, it's because he sees some sort of weakness in OG that we haven't seen yet or something, you know?
Come on.
It's like, oh, yeah. He's actually never going to be fully healthy. I don't know.
We keep talking about all these players, and these would obviously be replacements for Harrison Barnes. How are you feeling about the Harrison Barnes stuff right now? Like, do you think there's a chance we keep some other guys? Should we be talking about him more? Maybe that's a route that the Kings go. They go, we don't want to spend that much money on Kuzma. The OG trade can't happen. Let's sign Harrison Barnes for a couple of years because we know what he's about. We know what he's brought to the team.
I do. I like it for a couple reasons. I like it because, again, it's not from what we see and what we hear, like just from rumblings. It's you have players talking about his importance. You have coaches talking about his importance, and everyone's always like, we need to make sure there's a vet on this team. This is, I mean, not a young team, but they're, middle 20s, mid 20s, whatever. And then Harrison is that veteran presence that connects with all of them. You don't have Dellavedova now, and I'm not just saying like that's why you need to keep him, but at the same time, there really is so much value to him. And what he was doing on the floor last season, I think people are so hard on him because they expect him to really be that third guy all the time consistently. And that's not his role. And his role is going to keep adjusting as he ages.
Well, Mark Stein says the Pacers have interest in him. He reported the other day, league sources say that the Pacers have interest in Kings free agent to be Harrison Barnes, thanks at least in part to two rather prominent Barnes fans in the organization, All-Star guard Tyrese Halliburton and Pacers coach Rick Carlisle, who obviously coached Harrison Barnes with the Dallas Mavericks. Stein also says, although a return to Sacramento has not been completely ruled out, according to one source close to the process, Barnes is indeed a strong candidate to switch teams this offseason. Another team that was mentioned in a separate report, the Dallas Mavericks. Here's my thing with Harrison. I'm cool with a couple of years. I think the role has to change for him, and maybe he has another year left in this role. I just like the idea of him maybe being more of a bench guy. I think there are times, especially coming to the playoffs, these matchups defensively are challenging, but I think so many people overlook the things he's able to do well. His ability
Rebounding
to get to the free throw line.
Yes.
How many times the Kings in a half court this year where it's like they got nothing and HB's like, give me the ball. Let me go draw a foul, shoot two free throws.
Yeah.
He has his moments. And I think there's a reason why there are going to be teams around the league that have interest in him. And it's not just the Pacers. I'm sure there's going to be other teams who probably can't pay him as much as the Pacers getting involved because you want a player like that on your squad. Like, you want a player who stays healthy, who plays all the time, who's a great teammate, who can knock down the three. And ever since he's come to Sacramento, he's done that pretty consistently as a player. He's definitely a player that can help a playoff team.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. And that's why I even said as he ages, maybe that role changes. And if that role changes and let's say he's with the Sacramento Kings, that's a good thing. That means that they only added something, I mean, if you want to say better or to just better their roster and how this team flows. So yeah, that's why I'm fine. I would like to have him around, especially knowing that a lot of these people that we talk about is not totally realistic if you think about what they'd have to trade for.
I feel like the Pacers makes a lot of sense for Barnes, right? Midwest guy.
Tyrese.
He knows the coach.
They liked each other. And
they could pay him.
I was with someone around the Pacers, and they're just like, yeah, Tyrese has the keys to that team. Like, anything goes.
And they've been pretty consistent with that since they got him.
Yeah.
I think before he even played a game with him, I was like, here are the keys.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yep. So, and good for him. And that's why, like, if he has any say over this too, like, I'm sure they'll be somewhat aggressive with Barnes.
So if they get Harrison Barnes,
Uh-huh.
they have Tyrese, they have Buddy Hield. Can Indiana get like Corey Joseph this offseason? Maybe they could sign free agent Dwayne Dedmon, the backup, Miles Turner.
Why not just get Marvin Bagley over
Trade
there?
Bagley. They have so many bigs. They could trade Bagley.
And if they start winning, I'm so pissed. I think that'd be the only thing that would just, oh my God, no.
If I'm a player, I think Indiana is, if you like basketball, if you're like, hey, and you just are a fan of the game and you don't care about markets or anything like that, Indiana, to go play with Tyrese and that young group, it's kind of fun.
I would assume that everyone likes Rick Carlisle.
I think so for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, he's butted heads with guys throughout the years, but he's a respected head coach. He's been around for a long time. And, you know, I think Tyrese is a fun guy to probably play with if you're in the league. And they've got some money to spend.
Yes.
I think they're making a jump this year.
Ooh. Well, we thought that they were going to.
And then Halliburton got hurt.
Yeah. That and.
Ooh,
what?
that's a good point. Rory brought up a name. Sorry about the
What?
Rashawn Holmes, duh, because then Rashawn Holmes could be back with Tyrese.
Oh my! Honestly, I would love to see Rashawn. That would be the one thing I would root for.
Honestly, imagine that. Just if we said next year, Indiana had Tyrese, Buddy, Barnes, and Holmes, and they like made the playoffs.
Oh. No. That would sting.
They won 47 games. How?
I was just on board with Rashawn Holmes elevating his game. Not that whole thing. I'm not about that life. No. That would be awful. It would hurt.
Yeah, I was trying to think about what Harrison Barnes could get paid. You know, I think he was making about 18 million last year, 17 million, something like that. You know, I think that number is going to surprise. I think it's just probably going to be about that or a little more.
I was going to say
for at least a couple of years.
Around the same.
But then you just see how salaries have raised. It's like, yeah, he's getting when he signed that deal. I don't know. Does that seem like too much of a jump?
When he did sign that?
Like he was, making 16. Like, is he still worth that in today's game? I don't know about that, but it's just like,
You know what's so sad? It's
he's kind of like 16 million is probably now 18 million in today's league.
It's like he does his job. He's probably like, what more can I do to be like recognized like these other guys? Like I add value in my leadership alone, and then I'm capable of still playing at a high level, and I work hard. Like, what more do you people want? Just pay me.
Want some defense.
And he dresses like perfect on top of everything. Want some defense? God.
If you were to rank I'm going to play this game real fast, and the chat can play along too. Rank the options, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to give you could choose between OG, Kyle Kuzma, bring back Harrison Barnes. Let's say a trade for DeAndre Hunter.
Okay.
And then Kelly Oubre.
Well, I already know where he is.
1 through 5.
Okay.
So I'm going to name it off again. You've got...
But can I ask a question?
Yeah.
As I raise my hand.
Yeah.
Do I have to factor in contracts and everything, or is this just like...
Just as players.
Okay,
I'm not going to make you factor in contracts.
Yeah. So just as players. Okay.
So OG, Kuzma, who did I say? DeAndre Hunter. If they trade for him from Atlanta.
Kelly. Oh, you already
Kelly
said
Oubre.
Okay, yeah.
And Harrison Barnes.
And Barnes. Okay. So I would go OG first.
Okay.
I really like Kuz.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, Hunter is a little younger. 25 and 27, I think it is.
Okay. Plays defense.
I know.
He goes invisible sometimes on offense. Are you going to
We're going to get cute here. We're going to go Hunter 2. We're going to go Kuz 3.
Okay.
And I'm only not putting Harrison on here because it's like, I think it's a little bit prisoner of the moment. It's how can the Kings make a tweak to get better, right? Because if they keep Harrison.
You don't have to justify Harrison.
Sorry. Well, I just really I like Harrison on this team.
Okay.
That's why I'm putting him toward the bottom. Kelly Oubre had a good year last year. Well, in his 60-something games that he played.
I cannot, and if Mike Brown has a different feeling about this, okay. But Mike Brown was there with the Warriors when Kelly Oubre was there, and it was a weird fit. It was just a weird, and
it really was.
The read and react wasn't there. He wasn't knocking down the three consistently.
Decision making was
He doesn't
weird.
always take good shots,
Yes.
right? Now, does it fit with what you're trying to achieve? I know he could score. I've seen him get hot in games.
All right, Harrison and then Oubre.
Wow. Okay. So, yeah, I'm going.
Fine. Convince me.
It's interesting because I think OG is a perfect fit for Sacramento, especially if things are right. I do think sometimes the stuff gets a little overstated with him, but he's clearly a really good defensive player and checks some boxes that the Kings desperately need. I think the one thing that was encouraging for him offensively is after the All-Star break, I believe he averaged 17 points a game.
Who?
OG.
Wow.
17.3 points a game on 54% shooting, 44% from three. That was after the All-Star break. So I like seeing that type of growth from him offensively because I think some people aren't sure about the three-point shooting consistently.
You know why Harrison Barnes should be at the top of this list?
Okay, here we go.
He's like the only guy that played more than 70 games.
Well, and
all those guys you mentioned were in the 60s.
Again, the durability thing, I think it's undersold.
Matters.
The guy plays 82 games in an NBA season.
It was 82? I mean, yeah, it's like, oh my God.
I want to double check
that is
his games the last couple of years for Sacramento. So, yeah, he went 82, 77. He had that year, 2021 season, 50, but that was the COVID year, right?
Okay.
That was the weird season, 58, and then 72. Like, he's...
You ready? OG 67,
Okay.
DeAndre Hunter 67, Kuzma 64, Oubre 48. Uh-oh.
I would go OG 1, Kuzma 2, DeAndre 3, HB 4th, Oubre last.
Okay, we're pretty much the same. It was just Hunter and Kuz, which, by the way, I'm just being cute with it, too.
I just...
So cute.
When I hear Nick Nurse talk about OG Anunoby's defense and talk about he's almost a positionless defender, and then you look at... I'm on YouTube, of course. And I know mixtapes, highlight packages.
Love me.
But I was just watching like OG Anunoby defensive highlights from last year. And I don't think it's overstating it because the guy was on the all defensive team. So I'm watching these games and it's like, wow, he's defending Dame multiple possessions. Oh, wow, he's defending Luka multiple possessions. Oh, wow, they're playing the Kings and he's defending Sabonis in the post. Like, he has the ability to legitimately defend multiple positions. And if he can find consistency offensively and kind of perform like he performed after the All-Star break,
if you love him so much,
that's a damn perfect fit.
If you love him so much, what are you willing to give up, bud?
That's the thing.
Exactly.
I can't give up Keegan, so I'm out. As Mark Cuban would say.
Done. I'm out.
And with that said, I'm out. Can't do it.
Said. Dun, dun, dun.
God, you just... Hey, Durant's defending Durant. You know, like 7'2" wingspan. So maybe I should stop being a coward and say, you know what?
Yeah.
Trade it.
Take them all. Take them all. No, you can't do that. You just can't. I mean, obviously for different reasons when we were talking about the Suns and we're talking about how important depth is. It's like, if you believe in pieces that you have that you can build, you obviously still need to add some elite talent to your squad. But
yeah, I mean, if you walk away this offseason and let's just say the OG thing doesn't happen, you walk away adding your two major acquisitions are Kyle Kuzma and Sasha.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about Sasha.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I mean, and And so we think with Sasha, I feel like that's like almost, it feels like almost two of the same player right there. Very, very similar.
In terms of positional fit?
Yeah. When I say similar, like it's not like their games are the exact same.
Yeah.
Kuzma shoots 33% from 3-point
Yeah,
land.
and Kuzma's dunking on people.
And I think I'm more thinking of like, yes, positional size.
Yeah, I don't know. That's
Shape.
interesting too. I mean, does Sasha view himself as a starter at the NBA level?
We'll know what, June
Probably
23rd?
borderline. Yeah, June 23rd is when Sacramento can officially start having negotiations with Sasha, which I love the NBA. The rules are so funny.
Why?
The Kings have been sending people over there for like the last year as if there was like been no discussions.
Nothing at all.
In this league, the deals for free agency coming up in a couple Thursdays from now, they've already done. They're being worked on right now. There's stuff being finalized tonight.
It is strange. Like, I don't know. I guess it's more of a, it's more to try to give a deadline than it is to give like a rule of you can't talk to them before that date, you know?
Yeah.
It's just casual rule.
Tampering, not really a thing. And if you do it and it's really bad, we might take away a second round pick and fine you. Like with the Jalen Brunson thing.
Oh my God. Second rounder, no.
Another thing that people in the chat were bringing up, I saw this, was just Kuzma's assists the last couple of years. You know, he's not like a primary ball handler, but the fact that last season with Washington, he averaged 21 points, 7 rebounds, 3.7 assists.
That's pretty good. I like it.
Year before, 17 points, 8.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists.
Nice. Playmaking a little bit more.
For a team that likes to move the ball.
Yeah. No,
You're going to have to live with some stuff with him. There's going to be frustrating moments if you add him. Some bad shots every once in a while.
And that's
gonna travel here or there.
You know, it's funny, and that's why when you talk about a guy that maybe there's no one's gonna be perfect, like we already said, but at least if they're really good at one thing, you know, you can always expect that from him. You know, especially like if it's a defensive player. Like that's why I think with OG, you get really excited about someone like him because you know, night in and night out, he's at least going to be playing some high level defense.
Here's from the chat. Appreciate you guys in the chat, by the way. If you're here, hit that thumbs up button. Helps us grow so more and more people around the world see us. Phoenix Play says, I have a question for Kings fans. If Pat Riley offered you Bam Adebayo for Domas, 1-for-1 swap, would you do it?
Ooh, that's tough. Pat Riley, one, is never parting ways with Bam Adebayo. Doesn't matter what the deal is.
Portland says they're coming up with a compelling package to try to land Bam.
Not gonna
Dame
happen.
can play with Bam.
That's cute. Not going to happen unless Dame goes to Miami. Yeah.
I like them both a lot, man.
I do too. And that's why that is really tough if you're just putting it like that. I mean, how old? Bam's a little younger, right? Even though we shouldn't care that much.
Him and Fox are BFFs.
Oh, yeah. You got that going. Yeah, 25. Well, 25 and what? 27.
I like both of them because I look at them. Both those guys can pass. Obviously, Bam's longer. He's a better defensive player than Domas. But they're very, like, unselfish guys who play extremely hard. You know? I mean...
Played 75 games last year, too. Yeah.
I love that guy. He's a dog.
I know.
Sabonis is a dog, too.
Yeah, I can't choose. I'm not going to choose because I can't.
That's a tough one.
That one's a really, like... There's no reason to, like, for the Sacramento Kings, like, there'd be no reason to do that.
I know.
now.
It's just no one's pushing this morning.
No. My brain is going to, like, why I'm leaning toward, like, why I just wouldn't. So I'd be like, oh, no, like, you don't need to screw with that right now.
Phoenix says, good political answer, Mo. She just said no.
And then I changed it. I got off the fence. I went to a side, something I usually never do.
Yeah, I did see that. It was funny today. Speaking of Bam, was that Portland is like this. I'm very interested in the whole Portland leaks coming out left and right.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's Dame, his camp, them, maybe other teams, like everyone. There's so much talk about Portland. It seems like every morning there's like 3 news stories. Hey, Dame actually wants to play with he doesn't want the number 3 pick there. He doesn't want to play with a ton of young guys. Oh, he maybe wants to go to Miami. Oh, Portland really wants to try to land Bam Adebayo to play with Dame. And I'm like, God, they just have a lot going on.
They have a lot going on.
I don't know what the hell they're supposed to do.
They have a lot going on in their, whether, like you said, it's organization, agents, whoever that is pushing out all the shit. It's being pushed out, and it's being pushed out because they want something to happen. They are looking for something to happen, and I think it is time for something to happen with Dame Lillard. That is not their future. You know what I mean? That is not what I think they're trying to truly accomplish, but I think no one wants to say it. Dame goes on his IG live and says, I want to be in Portland. I want to be in Portland.
Yeah, but
smart. Great.
He talks about playing for other teams now. I think he's making it more apparent than ever that he would be cool with the idea. Dame Lillard, by the way, next year makes $45.6 million. The year after that, $48.7. The year after that, he makes $58.5. And then he's got a player option in the 26-27 season for $63.2 million.
Is there what other jobs are there where you can make $63 million in 1 year?
It's amazing.
And technically in like 9 months, but.
So Dame Morgan with that money, like, okay, the idea of adding Dame to a team that was in the NBA Finals as Jimmy and Bam. You would figure Pat Riley's making that deal for Dame. Bam staying there with Jimmy. That's
got it.
The squad. Is that good enough in the East to get it done? I mean, that team without Tyler Hero this year, right, in the playoffs was obviously able to get to the NBA Finals. I think the one thing that we pinpoint, it seems like, with every one of these guys that we talk about moving around the league is, all right, how many games are they playing? And Dame, the last couple of years, just hasn't played a lot of games due to injury. 58 this last year. The year before that, he played 29. 67 in the 2021 season, 66 before that. That was shortened. So the last couple of years, it's just not been trending in a good direction for Dame. And, he's going to be 33 years old. And I think it's tough for Portland because I think in a perfect world, they would like Dame, hey, Dame, just stick it out here and we'll get the number 3 pick. Maybe we'll get Scoot here. You can kind of guide him the next couple of years. But Dame's to the point, he's like, I kind of want to be done with this. And I think you're right. The Blazers are scared to end it. Yep. They're scared to break up with each other.
Everyone's afraid to break up. And I get, and here's my thing. If you are going to break up with each other, try and do it behind the scenes so then the messaging comes out fair. But nobody ever wants the messaging to come out fair. Someone wants it to be like, it's their fault. It's their fault. Point fingers, because then we can create this narrative like, we never wanted to leave, or we never wanted to see him go. I can't believe he's going. And it's just like, cut the Bravo bullshit and just make it happen. Make sure the messaging is fair. But make it happen, because I'm ready.
It's tough, but yeah, if you're Portland, maybe it's time to just go that route and hope you get Scoot Henderson. It's a good guy to build around. He's got some Dame qualities in him.
He
just
does.
With how he carries himself.
His work ethic alone.
Scoot is going to be really fun. And I know there are questions about his shooting. I just don't have as many questions about it because I feel like he's had some really good stretches, and that guy is just purely 100% focused on playing basketball. And I think he's got the ability to get to the rack. He'll dunk on people. I think some people are concerned about the size, but God, I mean, he's got all the characteristics you'd want in a franchise player. And I remember we had a chance to see him like 2 seasons ago, one of his early G League Ignite games against Stockton Kings. And I had not known much about Scoot besides the prep I kind of did. I knew he was a big signing for them, but you never know with young players how they're going to look. And instantly you see him come into a game, you're like, Yeah, he's an NBA player, and he looks like a star. He's 17, and he belongs with grown-ass men out there.
At 17, his feel for the game, like
physically,
you could see his rawness in some aspects. If you really, yes, sure, but you go, oh my God, that guy's going to get better and better every year. And then you saw him this last year as he gets a little bit older, his body aged at a level that we've obviously have never seen before. I mean, he's huge. He's huge.
Great kid.
Yes. Ugh.
Also, for those who missed it, last year at Summer League, we actually sat down with him for about 25 minutes in Vegas. You could search Scoot Henderson, Deuce and Mo on YouTube, and it should pop up. It was a fun conversation just talking about his journey, and that was before, obviously, last year. He was at Summer League, and we just sat with him. I remember how exhausted I was during that interview. A lot of late nights.
We had just had some Dairy Queen.
Deucey, hello, hungover that day.
That day you were?
I was feeling it that day, yeah.
Really?
Just from an exhaustion standpoint.
Oh.
Like and then it was like,
yes.
We thought there was a chance to interview Scoot, and we're like, all right, could happen. No, it's probably not happening. And it was one of those, it was peak end of it was like late afternoon where you're like really feeling like, I could use a nap right now. And you just had Dairy Queen, and they go, hey, Scoot's ready. And you're like, okay. Let's go.
I love that you guys, that you just said, in those moments, and you just have Dairy Queen, and you're just like, oh, I'm so tired.
That's like something heavy.
I know, but it's just funny because it sounded like, like that's something someone does every day.
No, we've all had those moments like post a night of drinking where you're like, I'm just gonna eat whatever today. Here's Taco Bell. I'll chase it down with some DQ.
I'll chase it. With a little DQ on the side. God, that DQ is good. And the interview was fun. It was
great.
It was fun just getting to talk. His whole family was right there. Like, super sweet people.
I wonder what his family was thinking too. Who are these people? These two random people
with our hand
with our mics. Like, it's not like some fancy setup. I'm there plugging into Morgan's laptop with a nice camera and like mics and stuff, but it's not it's not like we have like a producer on set where he's coming on stage. We're just like sitting in this press box without a lot of room.
He's like shooting for slam and all these things, and it's like, hey. I mean,
Boise in the chest is Dairy Queen is bottom tier in my opinion. Yeah, I'm not talking about eating food. The only thing you go to Dairy Queen for are the blizzards. I don't think anyone goes, hey, I'm feeling some DQ today. Let me go get a hamburger there.
No.
It's blizzards.
Who would
Some
get a
might
hamburger
dip
there?
a cone. I'm not a dipped cone.
I love a good dipped cone.
But here's the thing. Why you get DQ in Las Vegas, one, it's 120 outside. Two, at Thomas and Mack, at the Cox Pavilion, they're connected. They have
best thing there.
It's on the concourse.
It's on the
you don't
the
like
line
go
is always like out the door.
Yeah, it's in the arena.
You get Dairy Queen there.
Oh.
But they don't have cookie dough. They only have Oreo.
It doesn't matter. I'll take it.
I mean, it's good. Yeah, it's amazing. Dip cone is a must. Yes.
So how did we get there?
Oh, yeah.
We interviewed Scoot Henderson last year at Las Vegas Summer League. The one interesting thing, I saw people in the chat mentioning Jerami Grant again. I think headed into the offseason, before the draft lottery, I think the talk was, oh, Jerami Grant's going to re-sign there. They're still going to kind of find a way to build around Dame. Them jumping up to 3 obviously has changed some things, I think, for them, especially with a chance to get someone like Scoot Henderson, or if it's Brandon Miller instead. It obviously changes things. Like, if they move on from Dame, is it a situation where Jeremy's like, they don't want to spend money on Jerami Grant, even though they could pay him the most? I don't know. Maybe he's cool with staying. Or maybe Jeremy's like, I want to go win somewhere. And then he's another guy that becomes a real potential interesting name to bring up when you talk about the Sacramento Kings. It would be expensive.
Yeah. I'm not acting like the Suns are doing something innovative and they're doing something the right way by spending a lot of money to try and win games. But in this league, I'm just saying that you do have to spend money to try and win some. Don't make no money.
Yeah.
Like, you have to. So, and if you're not willing to, well, then you better know how to scout the right guys, develop them from within. But I also feel like the Kings, because of everything they achieved last season, their standards have to be higher. And with this, if you run it back with this same exact roster with no upgrade, you're just going to do what you did.
Well, let's just say, what if they came back with the same roster but added Sasha? But maybe you lose Trey Lyles in that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Can you run it back?
I just don't know with Sasha yet. You know, like that's such an unknown. Like I could sit here and be like, everything that we've watched with his games, like you just don't know sometimes how their game is going to translate.
I guess the question is, when you look at the West, though, do you think like this core group, like if they just brought it back, is good enough to be a playoff team again in the Western Conference? Of course, they stayed really healthy this year. Like, is just running it back, could they win a series with this team? If it was just another year, they bring back Barnes and
they could make the playoffs for sure with this same team, which is great. And let's even say Sasha's on that squad. Like, great. This league is weird. You never know what could happen. But if you're just picturing everything how it is right now, like what's even going on in Dallas? I mean, you're going to have skinny Luka for the first half of the season.
No one's buying that.
Hey, you be nice.
The things you do not buy in any offseason.
Oh.
Luka being in elite shape. Ben Simmons workout videos.
Oh, yeah. Altered photos.
You just don't. Those are like the top two you just don't buy. I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I hope this is the offseason for Luka. I hope it's Ben Simmons. I hope this is the best offseason that leads to this epic comeback story. I'm not rooting against it, but I've fallen, personally, I've fallen for these traps too many times.
Don't fall for it.
Dude, you see Ben Simmons, man, he's locked in.
Well,
he's looking good. You hear him on JJ Redick's podcast. I listened to him on JJ Redick's podcast. Morgan, we did an NBA prediction podcast, and I forgot to get to this point. One of my hot takes was going to be, Ben Simmons is going to be an all-star this year. I talked myself into it.
Well, can I just say this, though? Like, you were rooting for someone that was down, and you're rooting for
Oh, I love a good comeback story.
You love a good comeback story. And then on top of that, you were being a little manipulated by a good interview and and
I don't think there was any intentional manipulation. I don't think JJ was like, hey, let's really sell your comeback story here. Can I tell you what guy in Sacramento?
What manipulation is? It's his photos this offseason that are literally face-tuned and edited. That's manipulation. So now I don't believe the other shit.
Although maybe he's just trolling people. Maybe that's his gimmick this offseason where he's like, you know what? I'm going overboard. I'm going to Photoshop myself looking ripped. I'm going to drop dramatic quotes and go over the top.
He trolled the Philly.
He trolled Philly. He's in his heel gimmick right now.
Ooh.
Let him be a heel.
Now you're going to fall in love with him again. He becomes a heel.
It's amazing. Sometimes that heel turn comes and you're like, yeah, I hate that guy. And no, now I really like him.
Yeah. So
Boise says Mo was defending Ben hard last year. I mean, I think we both were.
Yeah. And I was mostly, again, because I was humanizing him. I thought people were just shitting on him. No, not thought. They were just shitting on him to shit on him. And it was just wrong. Like, this guy is down to the dumps. You saw that he was capable of being a basketball player in the NBA. Like, could that be the year? And it ended, oh my God, I was wrong. It wasn't the year. And in fact, he's showing his true colors. Like, this is what he is. And this is probably what he is going to be for the rest of his career. Which is kind of harsh, but.
Man, I hope not. I'm rooting for him.
I mean, yeah, but that's just what he's showing is like, I don't know.
Yeah. It's been a long time. There's no denying that.
It's the same thing with like Kyrie, because by the way, you're asking me about the Western Conference, and I was going around the Western Conference first in my head, and even just thinking about Kyrie Irving, and it's like whatever he does next year, if something else happens, right? Like he's not on the Mavs. I believe in his skill level, but I don't believe in him and his availability on a team. Like, he has shown me so many times, like, when they show you, believe them.
Yeah, I think with him, though, it's not always like injury stuff. So that's the weird thing. Yeah,
right.
I would not be like excited to sign Kyrie and go, okay, my goal is to win a championship, and this has got to be the guy I'm getting to do it. Like, I would not have confidence in that if I was a GM. But, you know, I also think there's so many guys who like playing with the guy. He's really good.
He's really good.
He's really, really good. But, yeah, I mean, it's also Kyrie.
All these things, though, made me think about the Kings.
I think they could run it back.
And that's where I'm like, well, if they stay that healthy again, why?
Well, I think
they?
Staying that healthy seems almost just so lucky. You know, it just doesn't happen. But they also did have guys that were hurt playing with injuries, from Keegan, Demonis, obviously. Like, Sabonis could have ended missing like 25, 30 games this year had he went and had surgery. Who knows how long he could have been out for that. So, you know, that, I think Keegan was playing through a similar injury. So it's not like they weren't hurt. They just had guys either tough it out, and they had some luck on their side too. But I think if you ran it back and added Sasha, Keegan gets better in year 2. I'm like, yeah, why couldn't you still be a really competitive team? I mean, there is a case to be made that if you don't love the options out there and you're like, hey, we don't really think there's a great option that we can go get that makes sense for us, about how much it costs, all that stuff, that's going to be better than HB next year. Okay. I think my concern is giving HB like a 4-year deal or something like that. That's where I would be a little bit concerned. But running it back, I would like to see some moves, but I think they could still be good next year if their offseason was adding Sasha and like the 24th pick or whatever that was.
Yeah. And like we said, NBA's crazy. You never know what tweaks are made at a trade deadline, who's looking to change around their franchise. Anything can happen.
A couple people in the chat are saying there is a report from Mark Stein. The Clippers are gauging Paul George's trade value and are giving real consideration to the idea of disassembling the Kawhi Leonard Paul George tandem. Well, I instantly go with Paul George. I'm like, okay, if the Blazers are trying to salvage this Dame Lillard thing.
Ooh.
Let's talk some Paul George for a second. So Paul George next season makes $45.6 million, and then he has a player option the final year of that deal in the 24-25 season for $48.7 million. Paul George.
What about him? So what?
He's got a great podcast. I don't know if you've heard it. Great podcast.
He really does. What?
I feel like tonight's podcast, if we title podcast that way, like some podcasts do, it would be called Availability. How many guys have we talked about this?
Best ability.
Yes.
The best ability is availability.
Yes, you got it.
God,
yeah. Last week you totally butchered it. This week was a little better. Paul George played 56 games last year.
Yeah.
The year before that, he played 31. The year before that, he played 54. The year before that, he played 48.
No.
I mean, no. I don't know what to tell you. When he's out there, it's great. He's going to be 33 next year, 33 years old.
Yep. That's Paul George for you. And
he has moments. You watch him, man. There's so many times you watched him, even last year, like, Dam's a stud. And think about his journey. I'm not hating on the guy at all. It's just like, God, it's just so hard in this league when you look at some of these guys, you go, I like their talent. Zion's the one that is probably the most difficult when we talk about big moves, is like, what the hell is going to happen with this guy? But with Paul George, I love a lot about him. His size, the shooting, the defense.
He can defend. And he can still, even through the time when he is healthy, he moves well.
Yep.
You know, not only with his footwork on the offensive end, turnaround, lethal jumper, but then on the defensive end can just make a big impact for whatever team that he's on, not just his on-ball defense. Yeah. So what about him? Where do you want to see him?
No, I was for a second being like, does it make sense for Sacramento too? I mean, we know Monty likes to take big swings, you know.
That's where
everything. Right, my mindset, and this is what's fun now, is I'm thinking big.
That's true.
I'm thinking big now. This is not an offseason where like, all right, well, I mean, you know, you think you can convince Ariza to come here? You know, like there's you have a GM that looks like he's willing to take chances, to really take some swings, and I think they're motivated to try to take that next step so we can have some of these conversations. And
I think the next step, and how do you find that when every single guy we've talked about today is like 60-something games or below that they played last season? It's like
age and missing a ton of games.
It is a big, and what made the Kings so good last year was the consistency that they were able to play with, because so many guys were always playing together.
Yeah.
And when you have that, even at practice, like what that can do for the spirit of a team, like you're all willing to play with broken limbs and bruises and blood and everything you can think of. You're willing to do that for each other at practices and through the hard times and then through games. It's like you want to do something different for each other. And you saw that with this team last year.
I'm out on that one for the Kings.
Good. I like that.
In the chat, someone was mentioning that I was looking a little beefy. Budget Baller Brent says, Deuce, looking beefy, bro. Is Deuce on the juice?
Oh my God. I was just someone just commented on my weight the other day.
Well, I don't think beefy is a negative thing, but yeah, it's funny. I think there's been a couple people now have commented on my weight, specifically my face a little bit, and on Morgan's weight. And I've been very transparent about this.
We know we're a little fat right now.
From January 2023, for those who don't know, we decided, hey, we'll go do radio. We'll do this radio show on top of everything else we do. We'll try and see how, let's do it. Make some money, have some fun. We can make it work. And during that time, I was exhausted mentally, physically, didn't work out. I put on from January to April 15th, 15 pounds. That's crazy. You know why? Because all I would do is I'd eat whatever. And I was not like making healthy choices. I was ordering food to go all the time. I was like, all right, got this show today. We've got a Stockton game, got a Kings game, night chat. We have that tomorrow too. We got to book guests, all this stuff. And you're just like shoveling. I didn't care. I was just like, I'm just eating to survive. And I was making terrible choices.
Terrible.
Not working out. So
Same.
I've been back in the gym consistently.
Yeah.
Shout out to our friends at ESAC Fitness, by the way.
Yeah.
Hey, go to esacfitness.com, the official gym of the Deuce and Mo podcast.
Facts.
I've been going there and I've dialed it in.
And it's so easy to dial it in there.
I'm down like 5-6 pounds. So
good job.
We're being consistent.
I still got that fluff going, but I'm trying. I got to fit into some pants I just bought.
Oh
my God. But yeah.
We should mention that real fast too, Morgan.
What?
You went to Dallas over the weekend. Morgan was doing sidelines for a WNBA game between the Storm and the Dallas Wings in Dallas on CBS with Cheryl Swoops, Pat Boylan. And I love Morgan posted about it, and I posted about her. I was watching the game. I was super happy for her. But I was laughing so hard because one of the comments that someone posted was about Morgan looking like, what did they say, a little...
Did she gain weight?
Oh, I thought it was something like she's looking puffy or something like that. Or maybe that...
Someone else said that too?
I don't know, maybe.
God,
and I'm like,
damn it.
God, people are the worst. And maybe it was just a person that was just very direct. I don't know. I was just like, we're highlighting this really cool moment for one's career. And the first thing you go is like, hey, I should put on weight. Imagine speaking in person to someone like, hey, I've got a very exciting thing. You're talking to a group of people. Hey, just let you know, very excited that I'm going to be doing a WNBA game. And I'm up there next. You go, More, I'm so happy for you. And then someone goes, hey, Morgan, you gained any weight? No one would do that.
And
on social media, you're like, oh, I got this shit. Let me do this real fast.
And if it is going to be a question you have to ask, at least make it a second question. At least push it to number 2. We can get to that question and say, yes,
yeah, to be clear,
have.
100%. We have both gained weight.
Fluffy. We're fluffy and we're working on it. And not working on it because I give a shit what any of you think. I'm working on it because I want to fit in some goddamn pants and I want to feel better. Okay.
I am doing it because I feel like there's a large segment of the people who watch us on YouTube that I've been just begging for one of these days for me to do a podcast with my shirt off. And
you have to work for that moment. But really quick, going back to the game that I did.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. It was so much fun. And I got one of like the best WNBA games of this season. It was incredible. 2 career highs from Jewel Lloyd and Arike Ogunbowale. And it was just...
that was a great game.
It was a really fun game, really fun experience. And Deuce, I know I already gave you this little shout out, but just really quick shout out to Deuce Mason, who for the entire week leading up to this game, because I didn't find out until like 2 weeks ago. And he's so good at helping me prep to be my best. And I think in some ways it's because he doesn't want to be embarrassed that he's partnered with me. So he wants to make sure that I'm good.
Yeah, that's 100%. Because if you go on national TV and
make you look bad,
it makes me look bad.
Yes.
It 100% makes me look bad because they're like, "Who is this? She's awful." And they go, "Deuce and Mo."
Oh
suck."
God!
And then I'm tied in with you,
Yes.
and I don't want to be like.
So
if
this
I'm
is why
tied
he
with
helps
you,
me.
you have to be great. I can't be around losers or people who are bad.
Good. Oh, good. Well, I'm glad I could be up to your standard. But seriously, thank you so much for all your help always. Like I know I say this to you, and I truly mean it. I would not be in this position without you. So thank you for always believing me. Blah, 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 blah. Let's lose some weight and fit in those pants, baby.
Just so you guys know, if this was not live, she would not be saying any of those things. It's so... Do not buy her like, "Oh, I'm being nice. I really appreciate it." Because she doesn't.
Wait, what the? I posted something about it because I was so...
Felt phony.
Oh my God. It's super genuine. I'm serious.
Just kidding.
Oh my God. And yeah, anyway, WNBA also like helping my basketball fix this summer. As soon as the finals happened, Nuggets win, I was just like, all right, more WNBA. It is just on another level this season.
Well, the talent level in the league is so strong. And I feel like we're getting better as a society. And I know in social media it still exists. I guarantee there's someone listening to this podcast that's just WNBA, they suck. They can't do that, blah, blah, blah. Look, if there's one thing you need to know about me, if you feel that way, you're a cash. To grow up, okay?
The untrained eye.
Yeah. Don't act like you have a small wiener, okay? Like, it's okay to like the WNBA. I'm a basketball fan. I like basketball, and it's fun. It doesn't matter that I'm not seeing guys dunk on each other all the time. All I know is I'm seeing the skill level at an unbelievably high level.
Yep.
The ball handling, the shooting, and that game you were just talking about, it was fantastic. And we've been watching more and more WNBA. You're talking about you getting ready for the game. So you find out you're doing this Storm Wings game. You're like, I have to be locked in with the WNBA. So you're catching up on games, watching Wings games, watching Storm games. And watching it, I'm like, this is fun.
Well, then
now I'm looking all the time. I'm like, I got to watch more games. I love basketball. And I think there's always this thing we do on social media at the end of the season where we say, "Oh, what do I do? Basketball season's over." It's like, it's not over. There's still basketball.
Yep.
Like, I think if you give it a chance out there, the small wiener people, you would get to a point where, like, you know what? I see what dudes. I'll listen to the basketball mind for a second. I'll listen to the guy who loves basketball and drops knowledge all the time and turn on the game.
Knowledge.
Yeah.
It's so true. What?
CJ's right. The only people who are going to hate on it, the untrained eye.
Yeah. As Eric Spoelstra would say, which I love, my favorite line.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, truly, I know I told so many other people to tune into the game because I was like, just tune in and watch. And I had people text me after like, "Oh, I can't wait to watch another W game." Like, I'm definitely tuning into this product. So,
Hell yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Ball is life. Ball is life. I want to talk about Zion in just a second.
Oh, yeah.
We have plenty of other NBA topics, including some news involving the Stockton Kings today. I do want to mention that tonight's NBA Night Chats, as we approach the NBA draft, is presented by ESAC Fitness. Yeah, I've been back in the gym. I'm trying to get back in shape. I'm trying to look sculpted and ripped and sexy again. Honestly, I just want to feel good. I want to feel like a slob. So what's great about ESAC Fitness, they've got classes you need, everything you could possibly need to get in shape. You can check them out online, esacfitness.com. Give them a call, 916-599-3181. Also, if you're looking to buy or sell a house, hit up Joey Reagan over at Lion Real Estate Morgan. If you want to live in the Sacramento area, why should people call Joey?
Well, we already know this about Joey. Joey loves the hell out of this place, and he's only going to make sure that you love the hell out of your place. And
I like that. That's a good tagline.
Thank you.
Hey, you want to love the hell out of your place? We want you
pick
to,
this
man.
guy who loves the hell out of this entire place. That's Joey Reagan. Seriously, he's just one of those guys that's all about connecting with people. Everyone falls in love with him when they have conversations with him. So if you're just looking to make this process easier, go with Joey.
Check out his website, jreagan.golion.com. That's jreagan.golion.com. You can also call or text him, 916-412-4592. That's 916-412-4592. License number 0212-8070.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us on this NBA Night Chat. So make sure if you're in that chat, hit that thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed. If you're on the audio side, make sure you drop us a 5-star rating on Spotify or the Apple Podcast Store so more and more people can get our content. We're going to have a long NBA draft stream coming up on Thursday night. It's going to be
It's just a party.
Last year we did 12 hours.
Oh, I don't think we'll do. We did 12 on draft night?
Draft night we did 12
What time
hours.
did we start?
Around noon.
Holy crap, did we?
I think it was pretty early.
Okay, we're not starting that early.
I think I
year.
actually ended it. I think I was by myself at the end of last year.
Did we start early because something happened in the day?
There was just a lot of rumors, and I think that, the Kings had the number 4 pick.
Okay.
Anyway, we're going to have a long stream that night. And
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, make sure to join us.
So the Zion Williamson stuff, Morgan, is very intriguing. Like, what the hell is going to happen? It seems like there's more and more noise about him possibly getting moved. I know Bill Simmons on his latest podcast, not like he's a reporter or anything, but he was talking with Ryan Russillo, and Simmons said he has a source that really, really thinks Zion Williamson will get traded by the end of this week.
That doesn't surprise me a lot, but it sounds like he'll get traded by the end of this week. And every time that gets brought up, what gets brought up is that number 2 pick, Charlotte, right?
Well, Charlotte, I mean, the Portland pick has been brought up too at 3.
It has, but the one I've been hearing the biggest connection to is Charlotte, because they think of Scoot, and you hear the connection of, oh, wow, the Pelicans would love to have Scoot.
Yeah, I also just don't know what to believe this time of year. It's just there's so much misinformation. We all get caught up in mock drafts, right? I was looking back at Gavoni's mock draft from last year during the 2022 draft.
Yeah.
In his mock draft, he nailed 4 of the first 15. But like, we all read mock drafts, and a lot of them are the same. And we're like, oh, this is where this player's going. It's a guessing game.
True.
But then there's misinformation. Teams might leak some stuff out. Agents, players' camps. It's the same thing with all this trade talk. But I think it's clear there's something with the Zion New Orleans thing where I think they are questioning whether or not to move forward. God, I just look at Zion, and I hope he could turn it around, stay healthy, and be in shape, because I just don't want us to be watching like a Netflix doc in 5 years where we're talking about, this guy was a generational talent. He couldn't stay healthy. He couldn't stay in shape, and he was distracted by hooking up with chicks all over the world.
Hey. Well, the only
But
reason
no, you know
why
what I'm saying? It's just like
the optics of that looks like, hey, are you not working on yourself, right? And you're exactly right. Look what he does on the floor. When he's on the floor.
But if you're another team, like if you're trading for Zion, your job's on the line. If you hit on this, you're a king. You're awesome. You are one of the best. But if you miss out, it's hard to come back from that because everyone would be like, okay, you traded for a guy who had played 29 games the last 2 seasons, a guy that in his NBA career has played 114 out of 328 games, and you're surprised it didn't work out. It's such a tough one because when he is out there, the guy is
magical.
An all-star.
Yep.
He is a specimen unlike we've ever seen.
Yep.
A guy his size to move the way he does,
to be able to move jump, play defense, shoot from the outside, like has the feel for the game, has it all. But you already said the name of this podcast is availability and this episode. And with Zion, I think so many people go, well, talent trumps all. Like it just does. And he is exactly everything that you said he is. And if you have that opportunity, you go for him. I don't agree. I do not agree with that. Sometimes when you have that cheat code doesn't translate into championship basketball. It doesn't. It means it can get you to a different level that maybe you weren't able to. But like you usually have to give up a lot of stuff too to try and get that. And then when that becomes your identity, but then that part of your identity isn't playing for more than half the season, then what are you doing? Like,
he's a 2-time All-Star. His salary the next couple of years, 33.5 next year, then 36. It jumps to 38, then 41.5. The final year is 44.2. So $194 million over the next 5 seasons owed to Zion, who, as I mentioned, 114 out of 328 games in his NBA career, and last year played 29. The year before that, he did not play. But when he's out there, the guy's a 2-time All-Star.
22 years old, too.
That's why I'm thinking, like, if I'm the Pelicans, I'm running it back, man. Like, and there's been mixed stuff about their relationship. Like, he's not even talking to the front office. They're not vibing, whatever. Yeah. Well, if that's the case, that's going to change the dynamics. But if you can work that part of it out, I'm running back and seeing, like, can this guy stay healthy? Because when he's out there, like, he is worth that money if he could stay healthy. The most games he's played in the season, by the way, I believe is in the 60s. 64 games.
Staying healthy, though, also has to do with staying in shape. And when sadly, he carries it, kind of like Luka, like they carry it. You can see it. You go, you're not working on yourself. You're not, like we've seen you in the best shape and you're definitely not working on yourself. He's not going to stay healthy if he's not working on himself, and he looks bigger.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about us looking bigger. We can talk about other people looking bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, I always think he's always going to be a thick guy no matter what. But yeah,
but there's a difference.
We've seen him when he's like in decent shape
versus
now. And when you're banged up, it's hard to stay in shape. But it is so tough because, man, is he good when he's out there, when he is right. You don't ever you don't question when he's out there. It's all the other stuff. It's like, okay, does he love it? I mean, I think there's a point like this is someone that has played basketball his entire life and has been in the limelight his entire life. Like, if you're a basketball fan, if you've grown up on YouTube, you're seeing Zion play like in junior high and high school. And he's playing so many games, the wear and tear on the body, and I heard Russell and Simmons say this the other day, and I agree. It's like, we all assume all NBA players are obsessed with the game and love the game.
Yeah.
Some are. I mean, we've worked in the broadcasting business long enough to go, man, that person's really talented and doesn't care that much.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, you can get away with it because you're so talented sometimes, but like that person's not. There's no passion, or you're not a good person. Like,
yeah.
And it's the same thing in basketball where, I don't know, maybe he's not like totally in love. And it's like, hey, when I'm out there and healthy, it's fun because I'm this freak of nature. And
I mean, look, even when he got that last contract, it was, hey, sign the contract, and then if you really want to get out of New Orleans, force your way to New York or whatever big market, everyone was talking about that he would possibly want to go to. But like, you take that contract, you make that money, and that's what he's doing. And if New Orleans is like, he's a freak of nature. We want this to work, but we truly believe like he's not going to be happy here. Then you get everything you can for that guy. If you believe Scoot is your future, you get that number 2 pick, especially if Charlotte really wants to go in that direction.
Well, it's interesting because it's tough to know what direction Charlotte really wants to go. Final week leading up to the draft, they had Brandon Miller and Scoot Henderson back in Charlotte again to work out. And maybe they go Brandon Miller. There's so much talk about, okay, but how do they handle things if they draft Scoot number 2 and they have LaMelo? It's kind of, if you went purely by fit, as someone in the chat was just saying, Brandon Miller is the fit, right? Like, he is the fit with LaMelo. The bigger question is like, hey, what do you want to bet on? Like, do you want to bet on Scoot or LaMelo? Like, who is more likely to lead you to be a winning team in the league? I would personally say Scoot over LaMelo.
And I think sometimes, like, when you're up there with a pick, you go for the most talented. I don't even think you go for fit, because you go for the most talented, because then there's going to be a time where you get to pick and choose what direction you want to go with that talent. And then the other talented person that you get to trade or do whatever with, you end up getting great stuff back.
I mean, if you for sure go, hey, Scoot Henderson is beyond talented, and we believe as an organization, he is a tier above Brandon Miller, I agree with you. But if it is debatable and you're like, you can see both ways, I'm cool with them taking Brandon based on fit. You know what I mean? Like,
I guess if it's really
like
right there for
he's
them.
very talented. I don't know where they are at with it. I hear you. I do think, like, all right, how would that work to get, like, one, just how would that work together with Scoot and LaMelo?
I think sometimes
we
get there.
Fox Halliburton, great example of that, right?
I mean, sure, but at the same time, that's why you draft that player that you feel like is the best, because then they got Sabonis out of it. Like, you do that, so then you go, okay, well, you know what? We actually want to go in this direction, and wow, we can get this for this other great piece that we have.
In the chat, they said, is there a chance it's a smoke screen? Oh, yes. There's a chance that everything all NBA podcasts and shows are talking about, everything's smoke screen. Yeah, I don't know what's real, what's not, especially with the Kings stuff. Like, the Kings don't, especially with this front office, they don't really leak stuff. Like, when stuff gets leaked, it seems like it's a lot of agent stuff. It's not them leaking things. We didn't hear a whole bunch of noise about Kevin Huerter until the deal was done.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like it was like, hey, there are sources say the Kings could have interest or could be working on a deal with Kevin Huerter. It happened. We're like, oh my God, that was okay.
It happened quick.
And then we went, oh, well, they had been talking to Atlanta about Collins, so maybe that came up, but we had not heard the Huerter stuff, right? Tyrese Halliburton. No one was like, hey, Tyrese is getting moved for Sabonis. It's usually the free agent stuff or an agent trying to dictate things that it gets leaked out.
Let me see.
We got a new Woj tweet someone was saying?
That's what they said.
Yeah, I'm not reading it because I don't think it's right.
I don't think it's right either. Don't read it.
Yeah, you're going to get fooled by these Twitter accounts.
And that's why I didn't read it. I was just like, let me go look at that. Let me go see that. Yeah, but how do you think there's going to be a lot of things that happen before draft night, on draft night, when it comes to a lot of these big names we've been talking about all podcast long? Zion, Dame.
If I make a prediction, I feel like the Dame thing has to, like, something's got to move here. I don't know. If he truly does not want to play with the number 3 pick because he's like, look, no 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid coming in this year is going to help us get to where I want to go.
Right.
And there's a decision to be made. Unless they're just going to go, all right, Dame, we'll figure it out. Like, just, you're a nice enough guy that we know, even if you're unhappy, you're still going to play, and we can figure out down the road. Let's just draft whoever we want. I don't know. I don't know what to believe. I think the Zion one is tough because I don't know that they're totally ready to give up on him. I guarantee you they're beyond frustrated with him and his injuries, being out of shape. And then the social media stuff obviously has been a lot.
Interesting.
It's been interesting, but I also don't think a team's going, well, that's why I'm getting rid of a guy. I mean, look, he's an NBA player who has some fun on the road. Like, breaking news.
If the sex tape comes out, it's like no one's going to care.
Well, okay. Well, that's a different thing. You're talking about she threatened to put out this woman threatened to put out a sex tape.
Isn't that like called revenge porn?
Yeah, it's illegal and she'd be arrested.
Yeah.
So, and her Twitter account got suspended today.
Oh, that's what we care about. Oh my God. That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, I just think there's so much risk for these other teams. It just feels like a really challenging deal to make happen. Like, if I'm another GM, I guarantee you, you're going to be like, I'm going to take a chance on that. I'm going to roll the dice.
On Zion, you're talking about.
Yeah, I know it's hard, and I understand what could go wrong, and a lot can, but
there's a lot of thirsty.
I love his talent so much, and there's another GM going.
Thirsty GMs.
I'll do it.
Yeah. No, thirsty ass GMs looking for that. So.
Andrea says, LOL at Deuce drinking out of that big ass thermos. Yeah, my big Yeti. CJ says, bruh, Mo cracks me up.
Why? I don't know what I did.
A couple of other notes, too, we haven't hit on yet. We were just talking about Zion. News involving the Kings today. So Bobby Jackson got the job in Philly to join Nick Nurse's staff. So the Stockton Kings had an opening. Bobby had done a great job with the Stockton Kings the last couple of years. And we were wondering, okay, what kind of direction will they go with that? One name we did mention was Lindsey Harding, because the last time they did have an opening, Lindsey's name was brought up. Well, the team announced today that Lindsey Harding is the new head coach of the Stockton Kings, and they have a new general manager. Anjali Ranadive has taken over. She was in the role as assistant general manager last year of the Stockton Kings behind Paul Johnson. Paul Johnson, by the way, won the G League Executive of the Year award, and he was an interesting role because he was running Stockton, but he was still doing a lot of Sacramento stuff.
A lot.
And now he's just doing Sacramento. According to the press release, like he's going to be working in the Kings front office. I'm sure there's going to still be some involvement in that too. But dude, I'm so happy for Lindsey. Like, Lindsey is a great human being. She's been on the Kings staff for a long time. I think this is just cool. Like,
she's a leader, dude.
Yeah, she played at a high level.
And like, she knows how to talk to people. She knows how to talk to players. She knows hoops. Like, I love this for her so much, and I think it's a great situation for her, not only because she's been in the system for a little bit, but because what we even just saw with Stockton last year, there's something there, and that culture was being built, and she's just another good person you are putting within that culture, that system. I really, really like this hire for the Stockton Kings and for just the NBA G League.
Yeah, it's the first time women will run a G League team, with Lindsey Harding as a head coach and Anjali Ranadive as a new GM of the Stockton Kings. So they make that tweak with the G League team that had a lot of success last year. So it's going to be interesting, too, how the Kings kind of use the G League, right? Because now you have 3 two-way spots in the G League.
Oh, yeah. I love that, by the way.
Me too.
I do. I just think the more room or options to develop guys and to keep them within your system, keep growing them. Just keep growing them. I mean, we've seen it over the years with Neemias Queta and
knock us. Like, it's not like I didn't have any play-by-play experience before taking the Stockton Kings job, and it's a great spot to develop players, executives,
broadcasters,
right? Like broadcasters, coaches, salespeople. It's an opportunity for everyone to go in there and work at a higher level, take on some more responsibility, learn the ropes, and try to get better. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. And I do love the quality of the product and how it really does keep getting better and better. Like, I've had more and more fun each and every year.
Oh, dude, I love the G.
I love the G. And now I love the dub.
Appreciate Peyton becoming a member for 7 straight months on YouTube, saying, I missed you guys, and also gifting 5 Deuce and Mo memberships. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Also, Leezy has been a member now for 13 months. Congrats to Mo and her WNBA work.
Thank you so much. That was so fun. So fun. Dude, really quick too. There was Courtney Paris, who obviously played in the WNBA. She was drafted by the Monarchs. But she's coaching. She's an assistant coach on the Dallas Wings squad. And I went up to her and I was like, yo, we used to play AAU against each other. And she was like, what team? And I was like, Pacific Pistols. And she goes, and she's about to say, and I'm like, East Bay Explosion. Hated those guys.
What really happened when Morgan went up to her, it sounded a little different than that, according to my sources.
You're looking for a sound drop. What?
Wait, here. I'm going to be Courtney.
Okay.
And you're Morgan.
Okay. Hey, Courtney. We played against each other in AAU.
Oh, nice. Where'd you play? Nice to see you.
Pacific Pistols.
Are you that who pinched me all the time in the post when we got switched? You are the person who pinches other players. Are you that? Is that you?
Actually, I've had people say, not that, but I've had people be like, oh, were you number 3?
Did you pinch me?
If that happened, I would have
Did
run.
you? You think you pinched her?
No,
Yeah, because
at that age.
you weren't defending her.
Oh, I did. Yeah. And not because I got switched. It was
Okay,
it wasn't like,
man, was your team small?
No. It was a switch. And I went up against, and it was just like, it was laughable. And I should have pulled that shit though. I should have just been like, shh, pinched her.
Yeah.
But then she would have remembered me and kicked my ass. So I'm good.
All over. Jamar in the chat was asking us to fill in the blank about the Kings number 24 pick. Dude, it's so funny with the draft because we've said this throughout the process. We've interviewed so many people, and on draft night, we're having 2 people, Bryant West and Pernille, who are just like locked into the NBA draft. So I don't know if I have a fill in the blank, but I definitely have some guys I'm interested in. Like today, I don't think he's going to be there, but Jordan Hawkins from UConn, I've seen him as high as 14 on the draft board, Morgan.
Ooh.
In the mock drafts, but I've also seen him in the 20s. I don't think he's going to be there, but God.
His length, his shot.
His shot is so nice.
It's pretty.
And I know he's like, do you really need a guy like that, 6'4"? But him and then Ben Shepherd and from Belmont. But Jordan, you're just like, oh, Hawkins, he could fit in right away. Like he can move off ball. He can knock down shots. And I think I am maybe being guilty at this point in time when I look at the Kings draft pick at falling, especially for guys in the 20s, for guys that maybe aren't necessarily like star players that I go, oh, they could help us next year. Like they could be the Christian Braun that comes in, that could be impactful on a playoff team. So maybe I'm guilty of it. But I also try to think like, well, we know this based on what Monty said. He wants more shooting. You can never have enough shooting. Well, this guy might be one of the best shooters in the entire draft. And then Ben Shepherd from Belmont, who 6'5", 6'6", 6'8" wingspan, played 4 years of college ball, but again, another guy who is at least last year, showed he can knock down threes. The one thing that gave me pause with him looking deeper is for a guy that can knock down threes off movement, he's a high IQ guy. He's a 69% free throw shooter in his college career. I don't love that because usually, if you're a good free throw shooter, you hit the 3 consistently.
Just
Kevin
the
Huerter,
technique of,
not a good free throw shooter
I
either.
know.
So I don't know. Maybe it's not that big of a deal. But I look at Ben Shepherd, and I know the combine helped him a lot, but I was reading The Athletic today, and they talked to a couple of college coaches who had dealt with him. They were like, this guy just does not stop moving. Like, just
doesn't stop working.
He is relentless.
Yeah.
And I go, that would be a good fit for Sacramento. And then another guy that I've talked about a couple of times, and I don't know that I would take him this high because this guy is not necessarily someone that I think can come in right away and like impact you. But James Najee, who is 18 years old, just a physical freak, rebound, block shots.
How tall is he, if you know?
7 foot.
Okay.
Let me give you his. Let's see here.
Because
I want to give you his wingspan.
You like, like there's
6'11",
certain people who like they have their things when it comes to basketball. It's like that is your thing that you look at every single time. You are obsessed with wingspans.
Fun, but he's also, it's not like he's a 7'7" wingspan, Morgan, the guy, and he could block shots. He played professionally. He's got some experience there. I mean, he wasn't playing like heavy minutes. It's going to take a second for him for sure. But dude, you look at him, you're like, oh my God, that body. It's tremendous.
And the other two guys you mentioned were like 6'5", 6'7".
Yeah. And this guy is like, obviously you're looking at a backup.
And I wonder because of the Kings and the length that they dealt with, and then you saw a team like the Denver Nuggets, and I think about someone like Michael Porter Jr. and he's like 6'10", 6'9".
Yeah.
But just how important having
size.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, Michael Porter plays much differently than James Najee does.
Obviously.
But yeah. I mean, we saw it last year. I mean, the Kings lack size, and they couldn't find a solution at the backup five. I don't know that James Najee's that year one or anything. I understand that, especially offensively. I'm just telling you about guys I kind of like in the draft.
Well, I like it.
But I can't wait to see. Jamar says, hypothetically, if Chris Murray was available at 24, do we take him? I don't know. I like Chris. His range is kind of interesting because I think Golden State worked him out, I think, late last week. LA's brought him in too. I wonder if he's going to even be there at 24. And if he's there, after talking to Keegan's dad, their dad, Kenyon, he made that comment like, oh, they might reach their like full potential or whatever away from each other. Mm-hmm. I went, yeah, okay, I get that. That makes sense.
People just grow, and when there's change, and they've only had change for 1 year. And I mean, that could be the growth that they need too. If for some reason the Sacramento Kings did draft him, if he was available. But yeah, I mean, I'd be down for that.
Would you rather have someone, I guess it just depends on the player. I'm dropping this like another scenario for you. Would you rather have someone that you feel like could step in right away for you and be at least a role player and play meaningful minutes, or that has like maybe lesser upside, or a guy that's probably not going to help you at all next year, that's raw and could take some time, but if it hits, it could really change things?
It's an if, though. It's a truly an if it can hit. Like you obviously you're drafting them if you feel like it's going to hit, though. I think there's this impatient side of me that would rather have the impact right away. But there's also this other side of me that goes, why? I mean, these guys are all in their mid-20s. Like this team for the most part. Maybe some late 20s. It's like I'm down for development. And because I trust now this organization and their ability to develop guys in this system that Mike Brown has put in place.
And the more I look at this draft and look at some of the names, I'm like, there's some talent in this draft, even in the 20s, that I think the Kings are going to have a chance to maybe get someone that can help them. And I think for so long, especially with the Kings being in the lottery so many years, you're so conditioned to just think, all right, if it's outside the lottery, it's not going to help you. Dude, the good teams, They could find guys in the 20s. They could find guys in the second round. They can find the undrafted guys who can be impactful. So do your homework. And you know what? Sometimes you can get a little lucky too. All right. It's not
Absolutely.
I don't think Tim Connolly thought when they drafted Jokic, like, hey, look, I think he's going to be a 2-time MVP. We'll take him in the second. We'll just kind of figure it out, though.
No.
Like, obviously, if you thought he was going to be that great, you would have been a lottery guy. You do get lucky. Like, the Warriors didn't think Draymond was going to be as good as he was when they drafted him.
No, but then I do think about like the Nuggets, and I think about how even Christian Brown and what he was able to provide. And then I think about the Miami Heat and obviously the way that they scout and then develop. There is something to it, just, and I think sometimes that something to it is really understanding the mindset of some of these young players. And sometimes it's not a young player, sometimes it's an older rookie, whatever. But it's understanding the mindset of these players when you are drafting them, when you are maybe trading for them, whatever, to come to your squad, because you believe that they have that winning mentality. And I think sometimes when that phrase gets put out there, that winning mentality, it's like people don't truly understand what that is. And what that is willing to do anything to bring your game and your team's game to the next level, and really accepting your role. And if that's as a star player or as a, number 3 guy off the bench, whatever it is, really accepting that can this is a team sport and it can bring a team to the next level. So yes.
Well said, Morgan.
No, it's just, thank you. It's just, there's a lot of people when it comes to NBA drafts that just go for the names. And I feel like sometimes narrative gets pushed out by some of these guys, and even scouts and teams will be like, well, no, let's go for that name. Let's go for, it's cute. Everyone's talking about it. Not enough people are talking about it, but I really feel like this could be the guy. It's like, just do your homework.
Dalton in the chat says Sacramento can seriously find 2 rotation pieces at both 24 and 38. CJ says, I will say, though, as much as I love Monty, he hasn't really gotten the most out of his late draft picks. Yeah, I also just think second round, look, it's not like we have a list of 100 players who have been awesome talents in the second round. It's hard. It's you don't always find them. So you look at him in the second round of the draft. Last year, they drafted Jaden Hardy and traded him to Dallas. The year before that, Monty drafted Nemias Queta with the 39th pick. Okay? I think Queta still has upside, but, the clock is ticking on that a little bit.
Yeah.
And, you'd have to go back to look at that draft and be like, oh, you should have drafted this guy. But I don't think you could hate on him taking a chance on someone like Nemias Queta, right? Like, there's some of this you are just taking chances too, right? In the 2020 draft, this was his first draft, he took Tyrese Halliburton. They drafted Xavier Tillman, who is now in Memphis. They traded him on draft night. They drafted Jamias Ramsey, who's no longer with the team. They also drafted Kenyon Martin Jr., KJ Martin, who's now with Houston, who I actually kind of like. They traded him on draft night, and that was the draft. They also had Robert Woodard, who's no longer with them.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Just second round picks are hard.
I
don't think anyone ever looks at an NBA GM's career at the end of it and goes, I got to tell you, though, he could not draft a second round guy to save his life. I'm not trying to minimize it, and I know there's talent. It's just a little harder. As you get deeper in the draft, it's just harder.
And if you are a GM that does draft a guy in the second round that turns out to be a stud, then guess what? Your name does get attached to that, and it does. Your resume does look good.
Like, Isaiah Thomas was the last pick of the draft. Jokic. This guy's the best player in the game. They got him in the second round. Man.
It's pretty wild.
Campio in the chat says, I haven't tuned in for a while, but where's Carlin? He's just sleeping right down here. Should I wake him up and hold him like camera?
Let the dog sleep.
Carlin's doing great. I know I had a couple more things I wanted to talk about with the draft. Where was I going, Morgan? Who were we just hitting on?
You were asked.
We were talking about second round picks. We're talking about Jokic. There I was going to go. You see Michael Malone got a new tattoo today?
No.
It was like this old school Nuggets logo on his arm.
Michael Malone?
Michael Malone, dude. This guy is...
He's all in.
I know people have been concerned about other players and like, hey, they party too much. What's happening? As Michael Malone stopped partying since then, he's now waking up and going, all right, I need to go get a tattoo today of the logo.
Oh, my.
Here's a picture of it I put on. Look at that.
That is that like his first tattoo?
Was that his first tattoo? Is a great question.
That is hilarious.
It's of Maxey the Miner holding the Larry O'Brien trophy.
I mean,
this guy's getting tattoos.
Good for him.
Him at the parade, he was so hammered.
He was feeling good. I was so happy for him. Like whether you want to call it commitment or whatever, it's just like his joy, his love is shining through. his fun little drunk moments, his tattoo moment that he just had there, all the things he's had to say about his team, his guys. So happy for him.
The other thing that happened today in the NBA that we haven't talked about, Victor Wembanyama is in New York for the draft. He's in town. He threw out the first pitch at the Yankees game tonight, and it was not a good first pitch.
Oh.
Yeah, more instant reaction. But whatever.
I would have done it much softer if I don't know how to pitch. But
settle down.
But really, you know what you're showing. Yes, the ball in his hand.
Morgan, are you kidding me? The ball in his hand, he's covering the whole ball. That's like a marbles in his hand.
No, that's what it looks like. That's and like it makes me
I'm
think,
exaggerating,
I'm like,
but
is
it is
baseball small?
Morgan, he's a giant. That's insane, though. How do you throw something like that? It's so small. No wonder why he messed it up.
That's why. A different technique is what he needs. Or he needed to just throw a basketball at the mound.
God. That'd be pretty funny.
Right?
He took the subway there, too, by the way.
He did? Aw. So cute.
And it was funny because his teammate, who's also in the draft, Koulibaly, who's projected to go like 10 to 15, he was with him, and no one on the subway recognized him at all. He's just chilling there, which is kind of nice in a way, right? Like, Victor can't go anywhere at this point.
No.
He's 7'6".
Yep. And I'm sure even before all of this, I'm sure people would just go up to him and be like, "Are you a basketball player? Are you a basketball player?"
Someone is also asking, can he actually stand in the subway? So what they actually had to do, they have like the emergency exit at the top. So they busted that open so his head could, like a giraffe. You know how you have to like travel a giraffe sometimes, Morgan?
That wouldn't work.
The subway, they knocked out the escape and like his head just went through that. Okay.
Boo. Boo.
Was it that bad?
That was.
Was it?
That was so, like, even before I was like, this is not creative. This is like, we know where you're going. Okay. Like, take me to a place and then don't go there. Like, you just went there. It
the
was
visual of his head sticking out the top of a subway is not kind of funny. Like a giraffe.
The setup was awful. So
I was trying to sell it.
I
was trying to sell it a little bit.
Honestly,
I was taking you for a ride.
I think you're funny, and I think that was I'm honestly disappointed.
The chat's giving me mixed reviews tonight.
Tomatoes. You're getting tomatoes.
No, that's like.
I thought it was funny, Deuce. I'm dying. No. Oh, we got shrugged shoulders saying I like it. I bought it. Wow, really? You guys, higher standards. Higher standards.
Morgan, funny is funny. You know. You don't agree? Okay.
Funny is funny.
Marcus says 4 out of 10. No, but it is. I thought the same thing when he was getting on the subway. I'm like, is he going to fit?
Sit down.
But he's very slender anyway.
He's very slender. Like, even just seeing him there up on the mound, I'm like.
Or are you how do you feel about the Victor hype? Is it too much for you? Because I know you're anti-hype.
No, I don't think. I mean, I think he has shown in his more recent basketball life that he is going to do some pretty fantastic things out there. And I don't think it's like, oh, is it going to translate? It's like, this guy's a freak of nature. Like, yeah, it's going to be fine. It's going to work one way or another is my point. You know, there's going to be things that don't work that people are going to be like, oh, but he's not as good on the defensive end or something, or he can't hold anyone because he's so slender. And it's like, yeah, but he's averaging 7 blocks a game. You know, like, and I laugh about that, but
I think that's what's it's just, can he live up to the hype? You know, I think that's what it comes down to. And it's not often players who get hyped live up to it, you know, and he's being talked about, not like, oh, he has a chance to be a good player. It's like, oh, like you have Woj going on national TV saying that he is one of the best prospects in any sport ever. Yeah. Like, that's some heavy shit, you know? And I saw that JJ Redick's having him on the podcast, which what a get that is for JJ to have Victor on draft week. Are you shitting me? But he's just got such a perspective on life. You're like, this kid's 18, 19 years old. He gets it. He feels like a guy that's going to be capable of handling the bright lights, handling all the attention that's coming his way that has really come his way the last year. Every one of his games has been streamed on NBA.com. Like anyone could watch him. They're putting him on NBA TV. He's being talked about for the last year. Everyone's talking about him being this special talent. I think he's mentally going to be ready for it. It's just hard to live up to those expectations. LeBron was hyped to an extreme level too with his high school games on ESPN. We were watching him. Everybody knew who LeBron was. He lived up to the hype and more in the NBA. And that's just really challenging to do. But yeah, I can't wait to watch him play.
I want him to live up to the hype because that only means fun for all of us. You know, we get to witness something that's like is going to be so unique, so different. Yeah, but I'm excited for it either way. And like, and if he doesn't, or if Scoot doesn't, or someone, you know, it's like that happens too. So many people, there's a lot of people out there that want to get so pissed off when things don't work out. And it's like, I mean, we've seen it happen year after year with some top prospects. So,
well, the only people you can get mad at, I would say, is if he's overhyped, is just all the basketball observers
that overhyped him.
Yeah, it's not like Victor was campaigning around the country like a presidential candidate going, I am the number one pick and here is why. Right? It's not like he's got a Paul Heyman walking around with him cutting promos about why he is the best in the world. It's like, no, these are the pundits who have labeled him. These are players who played against him, coaches. And like, we see it too. Like, the guy has a chance to be special. I think the reality is, obviously, there's no guarantees in life. I just think he's got all the tools you could possibly have that you go, yeah, like if you're drafting number one, he's number one.
Yeah.
So, what about the Rookie of the Year race that's being talked about in the chat? Wemby versus Chet, who's going to be a rookie.
Ooh.
Or Sasha if he comes over.
Probably not Sasha. Defensively, I don't think he'll.
Sasha beats Victor for Rookie of the Year. That'd be amazing.
That would mean something good's happening for the Sacramento Kings.
Man. I can't wait for draft night.
Yeah.
I really can't wait. I know we hype each other up every year for drafts. It's going to be so much happening. I just hope there's some big trade because I just want to be live. I want us to be like, hey, the draft show that we're doing starts at like 4:30, but let's hop on at 1:30 to start talking about these trades that are happening. That's what I crave as a basketball fan.
Well,
I live for, you know how I feel about the draft, free agency, and the trade deadline? I get so juiced. It's constant activity. What do you think about Woj saying he is not tweeting out spoilers this year? Like he's not tweeting at all like, hey, the Kings have decided that they are gaining traction on drafting.
So he's just not going to do spoilers, like leading up to the draft or
during the draft?
During the draft.
During the draft. It's all going to happen on stage. What do you guys think?
He'll be on TV.
He said he was going to focus on the TV side more and that he was also going to focus on like trades that are happening.
I think it's honestly going to be really hard for him. Just as a competitor.
Dude, he's I think early on he's going to be like, okay. But if he gets beat on like a trade by Shams when he's focusing on trades,
that's what I'm saying.
He is going to be heated, dude.
Yep. Yeah, and he's putting it out there too, just so everybody knows like this is why Shams is doing better than me because I am focused on one. And maybe it's because too he was like it was too hard for him to focus on both and be great at both.
You know what Woj should do? It's like, I'm not going to tweet it, but I'm going to send it to Schefter to tweet. Like, you know, Schefter sometimes tweets NBA stories. Just let Schefter do it. Just to try to, that's how competitive he is. He still wants Shams to be beat, but he wants beat by an ESPN guy.
Don't do it. Just let it be.
Oh, man.
You're still going to be at the top.
Do you like the spoilers on Twitter ahead of time? Because
I don't care.
I just want to know when it's happening.
I just don't care.
And some people are like, no, I don't want Twitter to spoil it. I just want to talk about, can we just watch it as it happens? It sucks that I get spoiled on something that's going to happen on my TV in a minute and a half.
I'll say this. There's something special, old school about like hearing it announced by Adam Silver, right? Like, isn't there something special about that? It's just nostalgic, whatever. But you gotta evolve, and if you don't want to, and you don't want to know, then just don't look on Twitter.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot of people in here that aren't even on Twitter, that are just like on YouTube, so they don't find out anyway until it happens.
I'm a pro spoiler guy.
That's fine too.
I like to know when it happens. I want to talk about it when it happens. I don't want to wait for the entire 5 minutes of the clock to wind down going, oh my God, can they just announce the pick? I want to know when it's happening. I like to, it's more fun to me to process it immediately. But if they stopped, it's cool too. I'm not going to be mad if Shams is like, you know what, I'm going to stop doing it too.
Yeah, because immediately would be when you find out, obviously, while watching and not on Twitter, unless some random person.
Well, on our draft night show, I think we're just going to do it live, but it'll be a bit delayed because we're watching on a delay and it's a stream, so it's a bit delayed too.
Perfect.
So it'll almost feel like real time.
Amaze.
Just so you guys know, we will be live if anything breaks too with something, especially involving the Kings. We'll at least drop a clip too if there's some big story happening in the NBA. So you want to make sure you're locked into our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Deuce and Mo. It's been a fun little hangout. I just looked. I think we've been on for like 2+ hours.
Yeah.
This is a long one.
Over 2 hours. But we had we needed to talk about so many things.
Yeah. Night chat's a little more chill during the off season. We had a little music in the background. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the conversation. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Make sure to drop us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, like and subscribe on YouTube. Let's grow this bad boy. We got a lot of content coming in the next few weeks with the draft. We'll be at the California Classic. We'll be in Las Vegas for Summer League. And, of course, we got free agency happening. Buckle up. Let's go. We love you guys, but we got to go.
You're all badass for being here. Have a good night.
See ya.